Could the long-awaited final ruling in the epic legal showdown between Ripple and the Securities and Exchange Commission really drag on until late 2026? That is the eye-popping claim that has been making the rounds in certain corners of the cryptocurrency world. According to a social media commentator who calls himself Bale, this protracted timeline is allegedly lurking on the horizon, poised to test the patience of every devoted holder of the digital asset known as XRP. But what on earth is truly going on behind the scenes? And is there any solid evidence for such a dramatic delay? In this in-depth look, we will piece together the twists and turns of this blockbuster legal battle, unravel the realities of courtroom filings, and explore the surge of speculation that has left some enthusiasts waiting anxiously for resolution. Strap in, because today's story is packed with legal intrigue, massive sums of money, and the tantalizing possibility that this pivotal lawsuit might shape the future of cryptocurrency as we know it. In this episode, we will go behind the scariest headlines to evaluate whether the year 2026 prediction has any merit, reveal why certain attorneys believe the final ruling may be much closer than rumored, and examine fresh motions that might bring the entire dispute to a timely conclusion. We will also touch on the role of market anxiety in shaping XRP's recent price swings, the broader regulatory context for digital assets in the United States, and the ongoing saga of potential exchange-traded funds tied to this prominent cryptocurrency. If you have ever tried to unravel how a single court case could transform an entire industry, you are in the right place. Let us dive deep into the labyrinth of speculation, legal maneuvering, and unwavering community passion that has come to define the Ripple versus the Securities and Exchange Commission saga. But first, let us grab your attention with what might be the wildest rumor of them all. Ripple could remain stuck in legal limbo for yet another year or more. That is the jarring opener that circulated widely on social media when Bale, a self-styled cryptocurrency analyst, posted on his platform that the final verdict might not arrive until late 2026. The initial wave of reactions verged on disbelief, with some holders of XRP falling into a panic and others laughing off the claim. Today we will peel back the layers to see who is behind this rumor, how it took flight, and why prominent legal voices within the community say it is basically smoke without fire. And in this single story, we will unearth the interplay of unstoppable market hype, the complexities of the American legal system, and the relentless quest for clarity by a growing industry hungry for unambiguous regulations. If you find yourself intrigued by the possibility of a multi-year wait, do not go anywhere. By the time we reach the end of this deep exploration, you may well have your perspective turned upside down. With that said, if you appreciate diving into the details and discovering what truly goes on beneath the headlines, consider tapping that like button to let us know you are enjoying the journey so far. When we hit an especially thrilling point, feel free to show your support. It not only motivates us, but also helps keep valuable stories like this in the spotlight. Now, let us rewind slightly and clarify why the Securities and Exchange Commission locked horns with Ripple in the first place. Back in December of the year 2020, the Commission came forward with allegations that Ripple had sold XRP in an unregistered securities offering. The immediate aftermath was nothing short of explosive. Major cryptocurrency exchanges suspended or delisted XRP, the token's price took a substantial hit, and a swirl of uncertainty gathered around the entire project. Over the months that followed, attorneys on both sides unleashed a barrage of motions, rebuttals, and sealed documents in federal court, forming the backdrop for a case that has sometimes seemed to inch forward at a snail's pace. And yet, this lawsuit has enormous implications for digital assets everywhere, because the outcome might set critical precedents about how tokens are classified. Enter Bale's sensational tweet. On social platform X, previously known just as Twitter, Bale posted words to the effect of, "Watch out, because the final outcome might not come until late 2026. As you can imagine, it ricocheted around the internet in mere hours. Worried commenters flooded discussion boards with anxious questions. Would we really wait that long? Was the Securities and Exchange Commission trying to drag out the process to drain Ripple's resources? What would it mean for the entire digital asset market if the case remained unresolved for years to come? For a moment, paranoia reigned supreme. However, when cooler heads dug into actual court happenings, they unearthed something quite different. Real evidence suggesting that a final resolution might actually be on the horizon rather than vanishing into the distant future. Here is where the real situation stands, based on official records in the Southern District of New York. Quite recently, Ripple and the Securities and Exchange Commission filed a renewed motion under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 60. If your eyes are glazing over at the mention of a legal rule, do not worry. We will explain why this development could be huge. The motion effectively signals an attempt by both sides to finalize certain aspects of the lawsuit. The text refers to the possibility of reducing the financial penalty that Ripple might owe from a whopping $125 million down to $50 million. That is not small change by any measure, but the difference is still massive, and it underlines a willingness to compromise. This proposed motion also includes removing any injunction that would prevent institutional sales of XRP. On top of that, the Commission appears prepared to return the extra $75 million to Ripple if the judge signs off on the revised settlement. The filing references what is called exceptional circumstances and acknowledges that the enforcement climate for digital assets is in a state of flux. The attorneys behind the motion are effectively arguing, look, the landscape is shifting, and it is time to revisit certain assumptions made earlier in the case. According to observers, these official actions speak volumes about how close we might be to the finish line. And interestingly enough, far from supporting a scenario in which the lawsuit drags on for years, it looks like both parties are pressing for a swift resolution. This discrepancy between social media rumors and actual legal filings has led many to question where exactly these doomsday predictions of 2026 came from. Let us do a quick snapshot in time to show you where the case stands in federal court. Last May, Ripple and the Commission tried to file a motion to reduce the penalty and adjust the final settlement details, but the court shot it down, citing insufficient legal grounds. Fast forward to June, and the revised motion appeared on Judge Annalisa Torres's desk, now citing improvements in the regulatory environment and a more thorough justification for the changes requested. Additionally, the attorneys introduced new arguments to bolster their stance that the conditions around XRP have shifted since the lawsuit began. That is a hallmark of the dynamic interplay between evolving technology and law. The ground can shift dramatically, especially in an industry as rapidly changing as digital assets. Now, if all these official maneuvers were not enough to put the 2026 rumor to rest, there is more. Observing the docket in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, we find that Ripple and the Securities and Exchange Commission recently filed a status update requesting a pause on certain appeals. The message is quite transparent. Both sides want to work out a settlement and are willing to hold off on a lengthy appeals process if the trial judge will approve their revised agreements. This sense of cooperation is highly significant. Real lawsuits are frequently messy affairs, with each side jockeying for advantage until the bitter end. The fact that Ripple and the Commission are showing a spirit of compromise, filing joint motions, and referencing the possibility of concluding the matter soon strongly suggests that a multi-year waiting game is unlikely. Moreover, the Commission has made a commitment to provide additional information by August 15th if the judge has not delivered a ruling by that time. Although there is no rigid deadline that forces Judge Torres to do anything by a particular date, many legal professionals who follow this story estimate that her ruling could appear within a matter of weeks. One attorney, Fred Rispoli, who has dissected various elements of the case, has gone on record labeling the 2026 rumor as misguided. Another legal mind, Bill Morgan, has also weighed in, claiming the notion of such a delay seems improbable at best. Now, that is not to say that the finishing touches are guaranteed to arrive tomorrow. Legal watchers caution that federal court processes in the United States can be complex, especially when a case is this high profile, and the judge is mindful of the potentially groundbreaking consequences. But the gap between there might be some delay until the end of this year and we could be stuck in limbo for another 2 years or more is enormous. Many interpret all these signs, motions to reduce penalties, joint requests for settlement, and pause in appeals, to indicate that the grand finale is quite close indeed. Before we move on, let us pause at this intriguing juncture. Do you think the settlement is right on the doorstep? Or is there still a chance that everything blows up in a trial that takes far longer than anticipated? If you have strong thoughts, now might be the perfect time to subscribe for further updates on this ongoing drama. That way, you will never miss a new twist in this roller coaster saga. In just a moment, we will turn to the price of XRP and the other market forces creating headwinds for this digital token. It is an area that gets overshadowed by the legal drama, but the financial dimension is crucial for understanding why so many eyes remain glued to this story. At the time of this report, XRP itself is trading around $2.01, having slipped by approximately 2.43% in the past 24 hours. Even that minor dip has spurred endless speculation. Is the token's value teetering because of conflict in the Middle East, broader economic uncertainties, or simply the lull of waiting for a final legal verdict? Analysts see a confluence of factors. Global conflict often impacts investor confidence, and combined with the typical volatility seen in digital currencies, it is not surprising that major news events spark short-term swings. But beyond day-to-day price fluctuations, many wonder what might happen if Judge Torres signs off on a settlement that clarifies XRP's legal status. If Ripple emerges with a definitive statement that XRP is not an unregistered security, it might open the floodgates for institutional investors who have shied away due to regulatory uncertainty. It could also catalyze renewed interest among financial institutions that once explored using XRP for cross-border payments. This in turn could set off a wave of exchange-traded fund applications tied to XRP, especially since major asset managers like Franklin Templeton and WisdomTree have already demonstrated interest in launching crypto-based exchange-traded funds in the American market. Cryptocurrency enthusiasts see a future in which a successful settlement for Ripple may serve as a bellwether for the entire industry, possibly enlightening how the Securities and Exchange Commission handles similar projects going forward. If a carefully negotiated settlement with the Commission leads to explicit guidelines regarding token sales, many developers and investors might breathe a sigh of relief, confident that they can innovate under clearer regulations. That said, it is also possible that certain conditions in the settlement could provide narrower relief that applies primarily to Ripple, leaving the rest of the market still craving broader, more generalized rulemaking. Many watchers are also conscious of the ongoing wave of enforcement actions directed at crypto companies in the United States. The Commission has ramped up scrutiny of various token issuers and exchanges, often invoking the same regulatory logic that it used against Ripple. While each case is different, the final posture of the Ripple matter might either embolden or discourage those who would stand and fight. Indeed, if the settlement offers a roadmap that others can follow to remain on friendly terms with the Commission, we might see fewer lawsuits and more preemptive compliance measures. Conversely, if the settlement ends up being vague or inconclusive about certain aspects of token classification, it could leave the door open to continued legal battles. No matter which side of the fence you occupy, one cannot deny that the Ripple lawsuit draws a massive audience from across the crypto spectrum. The fervor is fueled by estimates that a complete victory for Ripple could provide fresh impetus for major mainstream adoption of XRP, whereas a messy partial ruling might hamper it for years. Meanwhile, behind the flashy headlines about 2026 or bust, the real story of the lawsuit serves as a blueprint for how complicated it can be to apply old financial rules to brand new technological developments. Many people see this entire process as one giant test of whether flexible, future-oriented regulations can keep pace with unstoppable innovation. Let us dig deeper into the significance of that proposed penalty reduction from $125 million to $50 million. From the outside, some might ask, so what if the fine is slightly smaller? That does not change the classification question at the heart of the case, does it? The short answer is that it can matter a great deal, because the size of the financial penalty often correlates with the severity of the perceived offense in the eyes of regulators. A smaller penalty might indicate that the Commission acknowledges evolving circumstances or wants to incentivize Ripple to comply with a new set of guidelines. Additionally, the possibility of having no further injunction against institutional XRP sales is monumental for Ripple's underlying business model. It could pave the way for broader partnerships and more robust liquidity in markets that once hesitated due to legal uncertainties. Meanwhile, the proposed return of $75 million to Ripple might also mean that the Commission is recognizing changing market conditions or acknowledging that the lawsuit dragged on while the industry matured around it. Remember, the entire impetus for the lawsuit was to address what the Commission believed was an unregistered offering of securities. If new arguments demonstrate that the situation with XRP has evolved, perhaps due to decentralization or new case law, then the Commission's stance might soften, especially if it still retains a regulatory foothold to oversee future sales. So, how did Bale's cryptic 2026 notion gain so much traction in the first place? If you have spent any time in the cryptosphere, you know that big headlines and bold predictions can spread like wildfire. Some observers speculate that Bale might have simply made a sensational guess, hoping to stir up debate and rebrand himself as a bold predictor of gloom. Others suggest that he might have picked up a misunderstood snippet from outdated court calendars, or perhaps conflated different motions with final verdict timelines. Regardless, the rumor eventually gained enough momentum that multiple attorneys stepped forward, calling it baseless and underscoring that official court documents point to a resolution in the near term rather than years down the line. From a media perspective, these viral rumors highlight a fundamental truth. Digital asset communities thrive on instant updates, rumor chasing, and relentless debate. At the same time, when the stakes are as high as they are in this lawsuit, potentially affecting billions of dollars in market capitalization, exchange listings, and the regulatory status of an entire ecosystem, people can be quick to react. That is why it is crucial to scrutinize reliable legal sources and watch the actual courts rather than panic over any random social media post. The difference between what an official docket states and what rumor mills churn out can be as wide as the Grand Canyon. Meanwhile, there are broader market undercurrents at play. Besides the conflict in the Middle East, investors worldwide are grappling with inflation fears, interest rate uncertainties, and other factors that can cause capital to flow out of riskier assets like cryptocurrencies. Yet there remains a persistent hope that once the Ripple matter is settled, it will herald a brand new era of mainstream acceptance for XRP, perhaps ushering in a wave of spot-based exchange-traded funds in the United States, a possibility that has crypto fans salivating. Major asset managers are already lining up potential fund offerings, but they will almost certainly wait for legal clarity before plunging into XRP-based products. Even with the entire community's anxieties, the token has shown resilience. True, it has dropped in price over the last few days, but that is not unusual for crypto markets that often fluctuate depending on global news. One thing is for sure, if a settlement stems from the pending motion and manages to clarify once and for all that XRP is not an unregistered security, expect no shortage of celebratory fanfare across social media, complete with XRP army memes flooding the airwaves. On the flip side, a narrower resolution or further delay could yield another wave of uncertainty, though most watchers plainly see that the pace of negotiations is accelerating rather than grinding to a halt. As we inch closer to the final curtain, keep in mind that legal watchers are heavily scrutinizing every new piece of court documentation. Many believe that in the next few months, Judge Torres will deliver a decision on the revised motion. Should Ripple and the Commission jointly proclaim a settlement that sets the standard for how digital assets can pass muster with regulators, we might see institutional buyers jump back into the XRP market. The significance of that cannot be overstated. Despite crypto's volatility, institutional players can lend an air of legitimacy and scale to projects that smaller retail investors cannot. It could mark the beginning of a new phase where digital assets are fully integrated into the established financial system. Reflecting on the entire journey, Ripple has battled the Commission since late 2020, never wavering in its assertion that XRP does not constitute a security. The constant legal back and forth has consumed immense resources, spawned near-endless debate, and tested the unwavering loyalty of the XRP community. Whether it ends through a decisive court ruling or a carefully negotiated settlement, this case is destined to become a landmark of sorts, a reference point for future legal disputes involving digital assets. And that is precisely why so many eyes remain fixed on the daily developments of this showdown. To wrap it up, the truth is that official filings, updated motions, and the cooperative attitude of both parties point to a relatively near-term resolution, rather than an agonizing wait until late 2026. While the cynics might argue anything can happen in a complex legal environment, there is simply no credible evidence that indicates multiple more years of delays. If Bale's rumor gave you a scare, rest assured that attorneys intimately familiar with the finer points of the docket have all but dismissed such doomsday forecasts. Finally, if you have found yourself riveted by the dramatic push and pull of this case, do us a quick favor and share this story with friends who might be panicking over social media hearsay. It helps everyone stay informed based on the facts rather than fear-driven gossip. And with that, we have reached the end of our journey today. Whether Judge Torres issues a momentous ruling soon, or we witness some last-minute twist in the legal theater, you can be certain that the Ripple versus the Securities and Exchange Commission battle will remain a watershed moment for cryptocurrencies everywhere. Thank you for sticking around through our deep dive into the swirling speculation and grounded reality of the lawsuit that has captured the crypto world's attention. We look forward to having you with us next time, as we delve even deeper into the major turning points shaping the future of digital finance.